know, a lot of you had a long day today. Go ahead and get started with our Cache County Council of Governments meeting this evening to go over the rankings that we have done. I'd like to welcome everybody here. All the mayors that put it up, and Trenton is online. Can you hear us, Mayor?
Yeah, I got you.
Anybody else?
Mayor Harrison.
Mayor
Yes.
Harrison?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Great.
Okay. I'd like to welcome everybody here. Appreciate your time coming and so we can go over this information. So let's go ahead and do the introductions. Megan, you want to start?
Make guys at the minutes.
George Shane, Cache County Executive.
David Hare, Newman Mayor.
Ed Bust, Vanden City. Mike Benson. David Winnemalga.
Larry Jacobson from Nibley.
River Heights.
Chris Smith, Stephanie Miller Hiram, James Logan, Kathleen Alder Providence, Lindsay Pearson, our voting.
Right,
Craig Clarkston.
Jesse Mock, Cache County, staff to the COG.
Jeff Gilbert with the CMPO, staff to the COG.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate what everybody's done as far as the rankings and stuff like that, and we'll go over those this evening, and please, let's be prepared to ask questions or discuss whatever we need to discuss. Prior to that, I did a little bit of an analysis myself in the last 5 years, just I wanted to understand where funds went. So I didn't know, got some information and laid it out as far as between 2020 and 2025, that includes this year that we just did. And I want to share with the COG just how the funds have been distributed. This is in its entirety of how we've done as a COG, and I'm going to share this with the council, or county council as well. But it basically gives you an idea that as mayors, we take the responsibility we have here as a COG very seriously, and this demonstrates it. This demonstrates very clearly what's being laid out by the mayors. We're taking it seriously and we're reacting accordingly. So this lays out what each municipality has received. And then on the next slide, I've got the urban area and how the urban's been voted on and who's got what over the years, last 5 years. And then I did the rural and on top of that as well. And as you can see, the funds have went pretty much where people recognize they need to be, and based on the projects that have been given. We can share this with anybody that would like it. But
If you
it's a
just
pretty
make it
good
a little
idea.
bigger.
Pardon me?
Yeah, just make it a little bigger. I can't even read it.
Yeah,
Let's go back to the first one.
it's hard to do the numbers and the
Percentages good.
the percentages are
Just fine. Just go over the pie chart visual.
So this is not anything that, is going to change what we're thinking. It just gives you an idea of what we've been doing for the last 5 years and how we've been, as a COG, have granted and went through the money. It was very interesting for me to pull this together and see this. It opened my eyes, to see just that, nobody's being favored. It's obvious here. And we are seriously looking at the transportation corridors. And you can clearly see that where money has went, it's improved the corridors. In fact, I've been driving around looking at them, and I share with my wife, telling her wherever the COGs put money. So and I'm gonna share this with Cache County Council, so if you're gonna have any suggestions, I'll share it with whoever would like it. We can give you some suggestions. Brian suggested we put per capita down here as well. I'm gonna take a look at that too. The best per capita.
We just email this out to all of it.
So, it was interesting to me, and I hope you find it interesting. Take a serious look at it, and I think you'll like the data that you're seeing, and it gives a good idea just how, as far as I'm concerned, the mayor's doing as far as making sure the money goes where it needs to go. So, I just wanted to share that with you, and then we can move on. Next on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
I would add that some of those projects, like Nibley had several phases, although Nibley received the grant, it was for more than just Nibley. It was for connectivity from Hiram down through Nibley and onto Providence. So even though it'll show up under Larry's, it's more of a connectivity issue. And that's what the whole deal is with the COG.
I don't feel any rigor, but citizens of Nibley and everyone around us, thank you for that.
It's good information, Craig. Thank you.
Yeah, it is, and the more you study it, the more we take suggestions. I like what Brian just said on that. I wouldn't mind being able to put it on a map and show them, okay, this is what we've done. And this is something I think county council needs to see and help them understand what we're up against here.
I think,
Mayor, I really do think it would be helpful to put on the projects an arrow as to how much has gone into each place so that you can visually see on a map. Because I agree with the comment, Nibley doesn't benefit as much as the community benefits on these corridors. So Jeff or Jesse, could I ask you to do that? Take the projects and put them on a map?
yes, and I think, again, prior to this year, we used the CMPO kind of for that COG website. This year we stood up our own, and as you look at like Weaver County, they have a nice GIS map that has all the projects drawn in there, what years they were funded, how much they were funded. Some of them have before and after pictures. So I think as we look at trying to progress the COG, bring more understanding of what the COG is and stuff, those are the steps we want to go. It might take a while, but again, if you can have a nice map that shows all those projects and how they were phased and how much money went to them, I think, again, that helps highlight what the COG's been able to accomplish with the almost $80 million that's been.
Yeah,
So we'll get with the GIS folks.
It's about, give or take 80. I think we've done it's like 76.
George, do you want to go back 5 years or from the inception of the
I
fund?
think I'd go from inception, Jeff.
Okay.
It'd be interesting to go from inception, show the amount of money. I mean, when COG was set up, we wondered if this would work, if the cities would be greedy and it would just be a food fight. And it worked. I think would generally say the system has worked. So we ought to broadcast that. I
yeah,
think it would be a nice thing to have it available for the truth and taxation hearings that are going to be in a month.
We'll get on it. We might need your help whispering in GIS's ear to help us.
I will whisper in GIS here to have it done.
Okay, so that would help.
thank you. Any other comments? I missed. I didn't want to take too much time on this. I just wanted to share with you what I looked at myself. So next, we need to approve the minutes or approve the agenda. I'm sorry.
All motion to approve the agenda.
They have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next, we'll look at and approve the October 6th meeting minutes. Any question or discussion on those minutes?
I move we put it on that. I'll second of October's. No, October 6th.
October 6th. Okay, I have a motion
Maybe more than a second.
and I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We got your eye, Mayor Payne and Mayor Erickson.
Yes. Yes.
Next on the agenda, we need to approve the approval of the 2025 COG funding recommendations. So let's go ahead and open the floor for discussion on that. Yeah, Jesse,
So again, it's a little small, but hopefully people can see and everyone got a copy. This was once we kind of tallied up the scores, this is how they fell out. Again, we go through and we distribute that through the projects till we run out of the urban money. And as you can see, North Logan was at the end of that, and they would have got a partial funding towards their roundabout for, I don't know, that's maybe 85% of what they asked for. And then we fund those rural set aside funds through the rural projects, and those are shown. And then again, we ended with Lewiston being there on the edge with them getting about about 800,000 out of the 2 million that was requested, so. That just takes those scores and we line those funds out that way. For the recommendation, so.
As a reminder, even though it's fairly rare, it happens. If a rural area does rank high enough to get into these any area funds, they can still be funded out of those area, any area funds and not have to be. But we've only had that happen a couple of times where the rural project ranks.
I'd like to ask this question. What happens with the project number 4, where we're funding about 80%?
So typically either. Some. They would be out, those funds would go to them, and then sometimes we'll see them come back next year for the remainder of those funds. Sometimes they'll find a way in their budgets. Sometimes the project's on the edge of giving it up and have funded down to fund smaller projects. We've seen a variety of options there. Sometimes that's enough that they go on do most of the project. Maybe Lewiston has some version of scalability, so they'll go out and do what they can and come back for more funds next year. You see, those projects would be eligible for that, kind of those phasing points, so that next year where they got some money this year, they get a little bit of those extra points to help round out the rest of their funding for those projects that they plan.
Typically allows them to do design and right of way. And then it's quite, they come back next year to get the rest. So it does delay the process.
I think for us this year, I think where it's the majority, it's really close to being fully funded, that we would do a combination of things to make that project still happen, so go forward. And, if it were half of it, that'd be difficult, but I think with this amount of that roundabout, we'll see what we can do.
Okay, half of it, like, let's see, stepping in.
Lewiston was on the edge and they had 800,000 of their 2 million. Is Mayor Hall here?
No.
I don't see him. I know he talked about that kind of in their application. They kind of had a phase A and a phase B within that one application of what they were doing. They said there was some scalability to their project for their application, so.
And also, Executive Danes. Okay, second Danes. We've had individuals after this ranking, they'll come in and say, that's not gonna help us. Richmond did this, I think last year, a year ago, 2 years ago. Come in and said, that's really not gonna help us. Let's go ahead and we'll pull our project. Hyde Park has done the same thing, and we funded something else instead. And the COG is voted on.
And you just come down to the next
Yep.
bin and build the next.
Yeah, last year I know North Logan gave up their roundabout because it was funded high and they gave that up to put more money on their second east project. And then they funded, I think, like Providence Millville. There were a few really smaller projects that were at the bottom of the list. And for North Logan, they said, hey, that doesn't really give us what we want. We're willing to give this up and we want to specifically fund these smaller projects. And that was approved by the COG. So
That's where we work things out as a call.
yeah, sometimes when it's again that they're pretty close, they can make things work on their sides to get those projects complete, and it's hard when if you're asking for $1 million and you only got 200,000, that doesn't go very far on some projects.
Further discussion.
So you had mentioned you talked with Mayor Hall and he felt like that he could
It was talked about in their
phase it.
it was talked about in their application and stuff in their plans, because that initial third has some widening, and then that last 2/3 has the rebuild. So I think in their type of scalable project, it's easier. Like a North Logan second east is hard when you're doing curb, gutter, sidewalk. It's hard to just, hey, we're widening a road and we're just gonna abut and stop that. But some of the rural projects, it's a little bit easier where you're widening, you just widen until you run out of money, and then hey, next year you pick up and try to go where you're at. So I would, based on their application, it sounded like there was some flexibility there. And be able to take what they can get and stretch that as far as they can.
I'd like to say I apologize. I wasn't here that week. I was out of town for a couple of weeks. there were some questions. I listened to the COG meeting. There were some questions that were raised. And one question could be addressed to everyone. Everyone gonna give back their impact fees whenever someone comes in and develops. But I think it drives down to a better question of what has Hyde Park done? That we had a little bit of a miscommunication on the width of the road. We're having the developer, as properties develop, they have to develop their portion of the road. Matter of fact, that's why I was looking to get phase B first. I've already got it in a written agreement that developer has committed in property and in road, curb, gutter, sidewalk, over $1 million to build. I've got a verbal commitment from another property owner to donate the property in exchange for, they're exchanging for something from Hyde Park. Our connection fees and the value we're bringing and things like that. So we are negotiating these things with every property owner as we come across. Because I believe that major corridor that goes through from Providence eventually to Smithfield, it brings value to every piece of property along there. And it makes it not only great for the community for transportation. I know I was leaving a meeting earlier this week and there was that dump truck that was turned over at the airport road. I had a meeting to get to in Logan. Luckily, I just was able to swing over to Wolfpack Way and go down. So I think everyone has that, should have that responsibility to negotiate with every property owner that they're going through so that we're being fiscally responsible for the dollars that we have as a COG. We did that same thing on 700 and previously on Wolfpack Way to reduce the cost to the COG, to make those COG dollars go further. And that's why I was going after phase A first or phase B first. And if it would be okay with this COG group, if we can end up getting the overall costs on phase B first. Let me back up. You'll notice that phase B costs a lot more than phase A. There's another roundabout that accesses from the highway. It costs it. I did not want to be coming to the COG next year for the remainder of that and being the big pig at the trough asking for everything, because I feel that that's bad for everyone. That doesn't bode well for everyone. And that's why I was going for the phase B, and I had already negotiated commitments from the developers, one developer that's coming to build a portion of the road, the curb, gutter, sidewalk, as I said, and we'll do that continually all the way down as we have that, as it is on Wolfpack Way as it exists right now. So if Hyde Park can get the costs of the road in at that 3.8, my computer timed out, whatever the 3.8 million is.
You buy 800,000 less than what you're asking.
Well, I would like to put both of them out for bid. And if I can get the most expensive one in at that grant money, I'd like to do the most expensive one. But you'll see that portion is number 3. Let's see, number 5 on there.
So just to clear it up, like you would say, you would take the 3.825 grant like that you will be awarded today, and you would apply it to whichever project gets funded
If I
fully.
can get the most expensive one funded at that 3.8, I would like to do that most expensive one at the cheaper rate with the current negotiations that I have commitments from the developer to build portions of that as we do now.
But doesn't the developer need to build it whenever they build it.
They do, but you're going to have staging costs and everything associated that goes with that.
Well, I think there was some concern that, I mean, Part B is a great project as well as Part A, but if you go straight to Part B, that leaves unconnected section in the middle. And there also, I know you were doing the study about where the alignment goes into Smithfield, and there probably needs to be some negotiation between both Smithfield and Hyde Park on how that curve comes. Sounds like the study, did it come back? Or is it
Yeah,
still
We've
waiting?
got preliminary.
But again, your project Part B currently has it going to a certain point that I believe is gonna change anyway, so it seemed like it made a lot more sense to do that one at a later.
So either way, on point B, it would connect to 4400 north. And basically 4200 north, which is nobody cares about our addresses, but it's basically 4200. So you would have that connectivity on the east-west corridors, no matter what. So that there's a safety aspect to it. When development happens in there and they're wanting to move forward with it, they're not accessing out on the highway. So that we have connectivity to go to 4400 and go into the city or out at established lights versus coming out at non-established lights. That's
Can we pull up a map?
Sure.
Just so that we can kind of reference it?
Ed,
I did have something before you pulled that up, and this is something to think about as we go through. Lindsay needs involved with this as well. Basically, so we're looking at project 3 to project 5. Say
I
the
know
bidding,
exactly.
yeah, the bidding comes out and you go, all right, I'm not gonna
That's
do.
Absolutely not. No, I mean,
It's $266,000 that would
Yep.
shake down to number 4 if you
That
gave up
wasn't
number
funded.
3. Went to 5, and all I would want to hear is I'm fine with it, and the rest of everybody would need to hear that, and then.
I thought of that
Sorry.
exact same thing.
sorry, so
So say he gave up, say he does the bidding and all this other stuff, and part B, I want funding to go toward that.
yeah,
I want project 3's funding to go down to that. Well, it's below yours, and
Yeah.
we've always
So you would.
funded them down, so you would be able to get, according to the way we do it, $266,000, and he'd get the remaining unless you said, no, just let him go from one project to the other.
Yeah, and
You
we've
follow
always-
that?
We've always talked about the independent utility of projects. Is that in the guidelines?
Haven't we just received an alignment study back?
We got a draft back and we met last week initially on it, and I've not been able to meet with Mayor Monson at this time on it, but
Don't we
And then
have a-
eventually that needs to come to the CMPO if they're amending what's in the.
yeah, and then if it's amended, then it's gotta go to the regional transportation plan, and that's amended, already doing a transportation study, so then, yeah, that kicks everything down the road.
Okay, I'm not trying to kick it down the road. I'm just trying to say, do we have at this point a preferred alternative on that alignment?
They have 3.
No, isn't there one that's preferred?
We have a placeholder in the CMPO plan, and then this study is explored the other alternatives.
Okay,
And
and do they indicate which one is preferred?
No. Not yet.
Okay. That was my concern about Part B, Mayor Cox is making that alignment work. Where I don't think there's any issue on Part A, is there?
Right.
Alignment, it's all Part B where the alignment issue is still outstanding.
And some time ago, I brought this up, that the regional transportation plan hadn't been updated, transportation activities change. Desire wherever people are going to and from. And had a bit of resistance, and that's why we went with, on our plan, on our design, was in the regional transportation plan. I recognize that the needs of transportation changes, and it's been some time since we've had that transportation study for regional transportation.
Well, given what Mayor Buse has said, and he's accurate about that, that you'd be able to flow that much money down to option 5. If you let go of option 3. So we could just delay that switching from one to another because you're in the enviable situation of give up one, the money flows down. But we would have to approve that.
Absolutely, because North Logan would be in line.
They would
for-
be eligible
be
for that
fully
two
funded,
sixty-six and then you the rest.
And so
That's
therefore.
assuming
I
that
would-
we're bound by, I think the way I view it is that he's swapping out his projects. Like, I don't view it as he's giving up his place in line.
And that's what I wanted to
Okay.
hear,
And I'm
Yeah.
fine with that.
because if you
And
weren't,
let all the money go down.
yes,
What was that? No, I would stay in the place that I'm in and give Mayor Cox the ability, if he can bid that more competitively and cut his costs, that we let him use his judgment potentially on whether he funds party or party.
and that's really all I wanted to hear, because you could say, no, I want that 266, and you have that right,
Yeah.
according to the way we've done it.
Then I would just stay with that.
Mayor
But, yeah.
Jacobson,
Thank you, Greg. We're making a recommendation here. We're talking about what we might do, could do, will do, possibly do. But the fact of the matter is, we're not the authoritative body. We make a very strong, very good, I hope, recommendation to the Cass County Council. If any of these things come to pass, the what ifs, what abouts, maybe this instead of that, seems to me like Cass County Council is the authoritative body on this. We can go back and make a recommendation when we have, the information that you're talking about in front of us. But still, once the county council adopts this, I think it's their decision. They own it. If you want to change something about it, I think you definitely have to get council.
sure, but they usually work within what we they're very rarely, they're county.
Yeah, I don't really relinquish our power in that way.
I'm not relinquishing power, but when will the council see this recommendation?
Our goal is to take that to the council on November 4th. So in 2 weeks.
If you wanna say, what about maybe this will change in front of the council on the November 4th thing, then maybe you can. But if the November 4th, if we go with the recommendation that's on the board, the council adopts it, then that's what it is. If you wanna change it, that's fine too, but that would have to go back
We
to.
have the ability as a COG. If we agree, we have the abilities of COG to make this change now, and if we all vote on it,
And,
it goes.
and the change would be, is I put them both out to bid.
Right, we don't have that information today.
No,
You just got that information. I put them both out to bid.
And how
whichever
many
one-
bids come back?
If the more expensive one comes within that scope, that's the one I would like to go with. It saves the COG money, and it saves the COG money next year when you have, when there's a lot less money, and that allows more money to be spread around.
I don't know, I think I'd rather be, just to finish my thought, I think I'd rather be acting on real bids than what ifs.
Nobody's got a real bid. Anybody put theirs out to bid, they're all estimates.
Mary Danes,
Well, I just think, we all voted on 2 separate applications, which is how you chose to break it up. And, the scoring was the way it was. Again, we both agree they're great projects, and at some point you'll come back for whatever phase doesn't get funded, because we do need to connect it, but I have a hard time after everyone has scored a project to come back and sort of say, well, we'd really rather take this project.
That's why I'm just asking for an option. If not, then we go with pay.
Mayor
I-
Buse,
I hear what Mayor Danes is saying, but we have done that in the past. You gave up to give Wellsville one once upon a time. We have done that. And to me, the situation where we're sitting at right now isn't harming anyone else, because it's 3 and 5, and the one in the middle who could get a little bit more funding has already said, I'm fine staying where it's at. So really, to me, if Mayor Cox said right now, I would like to give up the 3,825,900 on 3 and move it down to 5, I wouldn't have an issue with that. If that's what he wanted to do, because Mayor Peterson doesn't have an issue with that $260,000.
And my vote was based on what Hyde Park said as was their priority in the previous meeting, and so
And that's
if
their
they're
priority.
changing what that is, that's more information. Like,
Mhm.
I don't necessarily have a preference, but I would love to hear Smithfield speak to that.
Until we decide where our lines. We need to get together and talk before we make that decisions.
So Mayor Ed, maybe
Yes,
we're
sir.
talking about two different projects. I think Nibley gave up partial funding to let what.
You did as well, Logan as
Yeah.
well. There's been several over the years.
The
I've been
point
involved.
is that those things were voted on by this body,
Mhm.
right? And
They
I-
will be later by us, yes.
Then that's what I'm asking for. If things change from what the discussion we had, when presentations were made, things change from our discussion today, then that's all well and good. But I think this body ought to be making a recommending vote to the council, and the council ought to be adopting.
I agree with that.
Modification,
We'll be
if
doing
that's
that.
what happens.
That's what we will be doing.
Okay, I don't support, well, let's just let it work out depending on how bids come back. And I
Okay.
think we need to make a specific recommendation on projects.
So you don't want to give it, what you're basically saying is, we don't know what the bids are, so I'm not in favor of just saying what if.
Well, I don't know what any bids are, so we should vote them all down.
I think.
Mayor
That's
Hidalgo,
Mary Danes?
how often does the county council change from the recommendation?
Never. Since I've been chair, never. And for
Okay.
7 years before that,
Yeah.
once they challenged us and then went right back to what we recommended.
What we ask if that happens is to not just reject it or change it, but yet send it back to the COG and say, we don't like this, and let us work up. Because if they were to just change things, the process would pretty quickly break down.
Okay,
And they've respected that, and that's one thing I really admire about the council is they have respected what the COG council has voted for.
Well, state code allows us to do one recommendation per calendar year to the county council. And it allows, as long as it's done in a public meeting and the reasons justified, it allows you vary from the outcome of the storm, as long as you do it in a public meeting.
thank you.
And all I'm asking,
Greg,
Go ahead, on the line, who are we speaking?
this is Mayor Erickson. Hey, Brian, can you put a rough pencil to what you think the developer's incentive might be in dollars for B that you're talking about?
well, we're exchanging some of our fees for their $1 million worth of participation. How much of that?
Well, here's my question. If we were to agree to go with B first, the only reason we should do that is because it will allow a better distribution of money in the future, assuming that both of your projects would be eligible and eventually approved by the COG. You see what I'm saying? If that dollar amount is insignificant, I don't want to see insignificant, but if it's a couple $100,000, speaking for myself from the last meeting, we were all supportive of A, but it was very little support on B. So my question to you is, I think to support B before A, we really need to know what a rough dollar incentive would be. I mean, what are we gaining by doing B before A as a COG?
Got the developer written in on phase B right now, or just over $1 million worth of development on Wolfpack Way.
So that $1 million, would that be money that, if all things being equal again, if the developer wasn't there, would that $1 million be included in the funding for B?
Part of it would be.
I really think that's my question is, what's the
Every-
dollar amount attached to it?
Every developer should be paying for a portion of the road because of the width of this road, you cannot force a developer to build more than what they're going to impact that area for. So it would be a 60-foot road right away versus a 99-foot right away. So you couldn't get that from them. So there's property, there's curb gutter, sidewalk that would be eligible for COG. The road he would have to pay for, and we would probably push for him to do curb and gutter. Whenever a developer comes in, we along that road, if you'll notice, Wolfpack Way is basically it's a 2 to 3 lanes right now. And when a developer comes in, we have them put in the remainder of the road on their property. That's not what the COG is going to do. So that developer would be responsible for that portion.
Mayor Buse?
So I'm gonna try to simplify this for this simple mind, all
You can
This
say
one.
3 dingers
right, for the Dodgers.
for the Dodgers.
With the changes that you're anticipating coming from the developer, and saying that in the long run, if you did B before A, it would benefit the COG in the long run. Do you anticipate with those changes that 3.8 million would be what you would need for project number 5?
All I'm saying is I would put them both out. And if I can get project line item 5 for that same 3.8, let's do that because that's less cost.
And I think that's where I'm hearing that there's some heartburn in here is voting tonight. They're not really, some are not interested in hearing that. So I'm again, going on estimates, do you think it would be close around that? I mean, would you be happy to take that 3.8 for that job?
Just by the way we've been doing things in the past, 700 East, although we received 3.1 million in grant money, we turn money back. And we've been turning money back, getting things done for less than what they should be, how we've been doing it. So there's no guarantees, Matt, Ed,
No guarantees, but you're talking about $800,000 difference. Do you think it would? Because I think that could make a difference in the discussion.
I wouldn't know. All I'm thinking about, as the mayor said online, is future dollars for the COG as well. If I can get it done at a less cost, that frees up more funds for next year. But if that's not amenable to the COG, then we'll go with the phase A and just be the pig at the trough next time. And that, I just don't like that. I just don't feel right to me. Well,
Mayor Danes?
Or
Or Executive
I'm
Mayor?
glad I'm not a mayor.
I'm Mayor. Executive.
Brian, could we solve this situation by simply saying we're receptive to you coming in even after the COG is approved and making a motion at that point to switch 3 to 4, 5 or something like that, that we're open to doing it, but it would require a presentation after you get your bids and things together. Can we not do that?
I mean, typically we contract for a specific project and
Right,
so.
but if he comes in and says, I've got these bids and I would propose this change, we could approve the change and send it back to the city to the county council.
We're gonna have to go back to the council and it.
Pardon me?
The county council had to change that.
Yeah, they would have to change it, but I think they would. If what happened, that you're proposing, Mayor Cox, if it did turn out that way, I don't think there would be a resistance to making the amendment. That Ed is trying to write up now.
so I'm just trying to save some funds, but that's okay.
I'm a little bit nervous about having Smithfield sign off on it, like that's what gives me heartburn, is alignment between the two cities, so. I think you take bird in the hand.
So the other thing that worries me is that a lot of these only have one on there. So what's gonna stop next time I go, we love this project, it's not gonna score. But I got one that will score, but this is the one we love. So I just put them both up there. One doesn't score high, I say, hey. Do you guys mind? Cause you let these guys do it. Do you mind if I move this money down to the one we really want?
Also need to keep in mind that Wolfpack Way's been on the regional transportation plan for over 20 years. It's been up number one, but it's never got rated number one.
Yeah, that's just my thing is, once we've set precedent, I think then what stops it? Cause I'd be upset if you got to move yours this year and I had two, I'll never have two on there, but say we did.
Well,
And you guys, no, we can't do that.
didn't that happen the last couple of years? Larry, can you speak to that?
To what?
Putting all the phases on there. All the phases of a project on.
Yeah, we put them on and made a recommendation about which phase and stuck with it of what we
Yeah.
prefer.
It's,
We gave you the data.
and I'm doing the same.
I think we retain the power. Like, I don't think we are gonna say to anyone, hey, we did this one time, but that's not my thing up here. I just want the cities to have
I'll
agreement.
do phase A. We'll do phase A and
To be clear,
forget about
Brian,
saving funds.
I'm all in favor of saving funds. I hope that we all put in the most accurate numbers that we could on these projects. You're right, they haven't been bid, but that doesn't mean that we don't know anything about them. I think we were all as.
You got a good
Hold
ballpark.
on, Nibley didn't put in for anything this year, so we weren't very accurate, or we were really accurate, I guess.
I think you're extremely accurate.
But the point is, I think legislative bodies, it's hard to play what if games during the legislative process. It's like, make a proposal, decide on the proposal, modify the proposal, but not play what if games during the legislative process.
Mayor Danes.
And if we can save, we should all be turning money back if we can save it on our projects, and I think we all do, because again, it goes to the next project the next year, so. Again, I know you're thinking through that but I know you'll do it either way on the
Well,
project.
it's just future dollars for everyone, but that's okay.
So what I'm taking from this is the recommendation that we just leave it the way it is.
Until it changes, and then we'll take it up again.
And you'll bring another project back next year, which is again on the master plan, and it's a great project.
Okay.
I would move approval of the projects as currently scored.
I'll second that.
Okay, have a motion and a second on approving the projects as currently scored. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So what this tells me is we're moving forward to the county council with what was, how it voted. We did discussion on what we're trying to do here, and I appreciate, Brian's trying to look forward, everybody's trying to look forward, because we all understand funds are getting extremely tight, extremely, we all know that, and we need to be preparing for it, which we're all trying to do right now, and figure out just how we're gonna fund all these roads in Cache County. So. All right. So we have approved the 2025 COG funding recommendations, and we've taken them forward to the county council on November 4th. At 5:00 PM. I appreciate anybody that can show up. And we'll present it at that time. Number
I
5.
got one more, Mayor. On November 4th, yes, that'll be council, and then we'll be looking for another meeting probably in the first little bit of December. We'll get this approved, and then we'll have another meeting in December. In that meeting, we would elect a new chair and vice chair. So that the policy manual that takes place in the last meeting of the year. So we'd be looking at that, and December, as well as kind of having some conversation on the good of this year, the bad of this year, proposed policy changes, start that conversation that we have every year, which take place in that meeting to take place somewhere towards the beginning of December before we get into all the Christmas events and things, but the 4th will be the big day, and then some point in the beginning of December to elect a new chair and vice chair and start discussion on any possible policy changes.
And with policy changes, that's been brought up, what I would like to have happen is each of the mayors put forward to me or Jesse what policy changes you're considering and recommending. Because I think we need to get a list going now. And I'd like it before that December meeting, so that we can have a list of what everybody wants to, the policy changes they want to make, or recommend, I should say. And then as mayors, we can discuss that and go through that and start refining this process like we've been doing for the last 8 years that I've been involved. I think we've come a long ways with this. Does that sound good to everybody? Okay, timelines.
That's what I have for timelines. Receipts.
That's what I'm saying. Did you talk timeline? Okay, you did that. Okay, Jeff has put together a local tax option discussion. He wants to bring up, so we'll turn some time over to him at this point on the local tax option.
So I'll be quick on this. The CMPO had some of this last time, although I've added some new information to it. The only purpose of this is just to try to get us all, county council, COG, CMPO, all on the same page about these local option sales tax that have been enabled by the legislature. They can be quite confusing how to navigate. And so this is just trying to bring an understanding to everyone. You know, we've had a lot of discussion about it, some controversies, but this is just sort of an overview. What are the local options? What the legislature authorized these? Generally, authorizing counties to do it, although in some cases, cities and towns can impose these. Counties can impose these generally anytime by a legislative body. Some of them have different flavors of whether they have to go to voters or not. Most options do not require questions. They used to, but the legislature has steadily kind of changed that to where most things can be enacted just by county legislative bodies. But generally, these options that they've enabled, and these go back to the 1970s, there's been different ones enabled and changed, but they all mostly tie to this list of eligible activities. And I won't go in detail, but basically they're really anything transportation, maintenance, sidewalk, curb, gutter, streets, transit, corridor preservation. Recently, in the last few years, public safety has been added as an option to 2 of the local option sales tax legislation. But historically, they were all transportation related. There are some of the local options that kind of restrict stuff down. For instance, our COG one, it says if it's an urban area, it has to be a capacity project. Whereas in a rural area, it can be maintenance. And so there's a few nuances with them, but generally they all tie to this default list of eligible activities. You'll note that there's no admin in there or things like that. Generally speaking, you know, they're mostly capital type expenditures. Next slide. And I will say they range from 0.20 to 0.30. This is just a list of which counties have enacted these. And you'll note for the first, second, and third quarter, there's different code sections there. You have the option of enabling one of those, but not both. So if they're in pairs, you can only enable one in that category. So if you've already enabled that under that code section, you no longer can enable the other one. It's gone. So you'll note there that, and it also shows some of them will have different focuses on transit only or which modes they can do. The first option that Cache Valley Transit District enacted that back in the eighties or whenever they formed the transit district. It's not for the whole county, it's just for those cities that are part of the transit district. The second quarter was enacted last year. You can see that, well, so it was enacted last year. There's 8 other counties that have done that, although all of them haven't opted to do public safety. But by far the fourth quarter is the one. 24 of the 29 counties have enacted that one. The third quarter, that's the one that funds this process, and 12 other counties in the state have enacted that one. The fifth quarter, that doesn't make sense to have a fifth quarter, but such it is. It's quarter 1%. You have to have enacted all the other 4 quarters in order to enact that, and there's only really Wasatch front counties that have enacted that. So the highlighted ones are the ones that have been enacted so far in Cache County. Next slide. So this just summarizes it, you know, the different options, and where there's an X, that means you can't, that's no longer eligible. The check mark means that we have enacted it. So you'll note there, the highlighted, these are the only real options that remain to Cache County, at least by current legislative enablement. Now, those things change, but by what's allowed by state code, we could enact the 5th option. It doesn't require a public vote. It has a statutory formula, how that's distributed, and essentially 37.5 would go to the county, 37.5 would be distributed to the cities in a similar way to how the fourth quarter is. I'll go over that in a second. And then it would require a quarter of that to go to Connect Transit, or at least for the cities that are in the CBT area. I will note one other option. This isn't really a sales tax, but it is an option to fund transportation. That is, the state legislature has authorized up to the county legislative body, doesn't require a vote, can enable up to a $10 vehicle registration fee that can be used for advanced corridor preservation for roads and transit. And while we remain a third-class county, we can use half of that just generally for road construction, similar to what we do with the COG. But once we hit a second-class county, that can only be used for advanced corridor preservation. So that'd be something like our western corridor, where we want to go out and start acquiring right-of-ways ahead of things. That vehicle registration fee requires it to go through this COG to make a recommendation. It would generate about 1 million annually, at least based on 2024 vehicle fleet data for the county if they were to enact a $10 vehicle registration fee. Next slide. This just gives you a sense of how much is generated. So this is the second option, the one that the county council recently approved. Now they just changed to say that 60% of the second quarter is allocated to public safety, but this gives you a sense of how much money. So it just started distributing. The first full month was in June. So you'll see there a track record. It varies quite a bit, but I just took the average of those months that we have and said, what if you were to project those for at least a year? It would generate about 8.2 million. But again, that's just an estimate because we're only basing it on 4 months of revenue coming in. It gives you a sense of how much that second quarter generates. Now, a quarter or 60% of that will have to go to public safety, though, so transportation, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. Next slide. This is the third quarter. You know kind of what that revenue is. This gives you a sense of how it varies month to month. This is what we project forward to allocate for this group. Next slide. The fourth quarter gets distributed by the tax commission by formula to each of the cities. So I don't think the county plays a role in this. The tax commission distributes these funds based on, and that was enacted by the county council. I think in 2018, county council enacted this, and that had a beneficiary, all your cities where those funds get pushed out to you, and you can kind of see the balance of that. Connect Transit gets about 9.4, and again, these formulas are set in the statute. Next slide. I'm just going to point this out just for information. The legislature a couple years ago, or in 2023, enacted Senate Bill 175, and it had a one-time push out of money to all of you. Hopefully you're aware of this and seen it. This comes sort of by the B&C road formula, distribution formula. It's funded by a $2 vehicle registration fee. It was a $40 million one-time state push out that was distributed to cities in the county based on that formula. I just provide that to you by way of information. I don't think this was really not a sales tax funded thing, although there was a mix, but the $2 statewide vehicle registration fee was the bulk of that funding. Next slide.
Before you go on from that,
Go ahead.
so it's a $2 statewide vehicle registration fee. That fee is quadrupled, and we're still only getting $2.
No, what the legislature did is to enable this one-time push out, and it was actually to rural counties. They enacted a statewide $2 vehicle registration fee, and that funded this one-time push out. I don't know what happens after this. Once you enact the fee, it doesn't go away.
Right.
But I think that was kind of the horse trading political thing to say, give us a one-time thing, and then we'll let you keep it. But where it goes from here, I don't know. That's the legislative.
Almost 10 million can the county administers.
Yeah.
But in a one-time, that was all kind of political horse trading there, the legislature.
Okay.
And it was kind of a, you do this and we'll do that kind of a thing. Next slide. So I just want to talk briefly about kind of a compliance demonstration. This really holds true for all your cities, but I'll use the example of the second quarter that was enacted. So it's important to realize that those funds that come to you are restricted. They have to be used for those purposes. Now, in most cases, you all spend plenty of money on that, and it's not hard to justify that. No one comes and, well, how do you say this? A state auditor at some point can knock on your door and kind of say, hey, we're auditing these to make sure they get used, but there's no oversight role or state agency that oversees this. But in terms of compliance, what you would need to do, and this would hold true for the county with the recently enacted second quarter, is you would essentially have to justify those expenses. Now, on the public safety side, they just have to prove that at least 60% of the revenue are going to public safety in the county, and it's not restricted there to capital. It can be in administrative salaries, law enforcement, corrections, emergency management. So that's pretty broad. But on the 40% side, we'd have to document that expenses related to transportation, capital construction, or maintenance and operation, not administrative. They would need to demonstrate that there's trail, airport, road, capital expenses are equal to or greater to 40% of the revenue from this source. And the thing that, and this is why I bring it up, the thing is to remember that you have other sources that are restricted, like your B&C road funds or those rural funds we talked about. So this compliance demonstration would need to be in addition to those to say we're spending all that on transport. In other words, you can't double count it. You can't say we're using B&C road funds and these new sales taxes. Does that make sense? So a compliance demonstration, and this would hold true for your fourth quarter or whatever. If ever push comes to shove, you would need to demonstrate that your B&C road funds, these sales tax funds are all going to those eligible transportation.
Let me share something with you guys, just what happened to Clarkson this year. 43 years ago, Clarkson applied for a grant from the state, put a tennis court in. And this year,
You got approved.
we got approved. This year, we got notified that we were being audited to see if we spent that for that purpose. So what he says, they stood up a new group at the state level to audit that. And they're coming out, 43 years later, we were audited to see if it's still a recreation area.
Has to do with the recreational,
Yep,
what's it called, Marcus?
so
Land and
just,
Water Conservation
Yeah.
Fund, we actually got one
We
too.
got to.
yeah,
We did too.
so
Like years and years.
The 60-40 split is mandated by the state code, or is that decided by the county council?
So the state code says the county council has to, by resolution, decide on that split and pass it by resolution. Now, in terms of the transportation, it doesn't say how that has to be. It doesn't say it has to come through the COG, or it just says those eligible activities, it has to go to those uses. Does that make sense?
Jeff, during that meeting, didn't, Chairperson Goodlander say 25%? Wasn't that part of the resolution
They've since went back and changed it to 60-40.
to what, but to county transportation, not to
Well,
college?
that's hasn't been stated yet.
And
I don't know. That's, yeah, that's to be
I thought they
decided
said
later
that
is all.
they would- That it would be allocated to the COG.
No, they
He
did
says they
not.
changed it to.
and we have not received that resolution.
So where is it allocated to then, within the cost?
As somebody from the county.
Depends on.
Well, we need to clarify.
It's that
I
ground there,
understand he
big one
wasn't
too.
going to talk, but that was my first meeting and I was still trying to get right side up. Where would it go if it didn't go to COG?
Well, it would go to county
Transportation.
transportation, and that, I think when they passed it, they sort of said, they left it ambiguous. They said, we'll decide that later.
Okay,
And they said we would involve COG and the CMPO in those discussions, but as far as I know, nothing, George, nothing's been really
why don't,
defined.
why don't we tonight make a motion here to ask the county to take those funds and give them to COG?
I'll make that motion.
Yeah, I'll second that.
What's my arm?
There's been a lot of that discussion, prodding of the council on that desire.
I realize they may not agree, but I do agree. I think that's where the money should go, is to COG.
You have a motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
You get that,
I
baby.
thought it was a motion by your Peterson. Okay, great. Yep, it's noted in the minute.
I merely suggested it. I didn't.
Good job.
But when this
Yes.
happened, there were a lot of verbal promises that were going, so I'm sure that's what we're remembering is that they said, oh, no, we're gonna take all the money this time, but coming up in the next year.
25,
we'll give
50,
you-
They actually, in my meeting with them just a few months ago, they agreed that they would give a resolution of a timeline of how they're gonna start filtering that back to the call. And I haven't seen it.
Well, they moved from 25 to 40. I mean, they start out at 25%, Mayor. The Zoolander motion was to move from 25% to 40%. So that is some progress. But, the county has some financial difficulties that we're working through as fast as we can.
We are all aware of it. Thank you.
And I would just say, they were in the unpleasant situation of having 19 mayors come in and be unhappy about this. I think, that it would be appropriate to recognize that the counties, when it makes proposals to COG, shouldn't be penalized because of this.
Agreed. We could try that. But you can see.
With
how
that
well-
said, can we give them a letter after the submittal to the?
I just have to tell you that, look at the projects. The county in the one project that's submitted this year, it's between two cities. We have virtually no unincorporated area up there. And just because it comes in our name doesn't mean that it isn't just as worthy as any other project.
True, and that's what we expressed in the meeting we held, and I said, don't shoot. But the fact of the matter is, we've still got to have some good faith on both sides, and that's, some of them don't feel like that's been accomplished. Mayor Danes.
So is the 25 to 40%, is that just the portion of the county funds that are going to transportation, so they're still keeping the rest for public safety?
Yeah.
There's 60% still going to public safety.
But it can't be used for pay, it has to be used for
Capital.
capital expense.
On the public safety, it can be used for.
No,
stuff.
it can't, right?
There's some different requirements based on the
They did change.
county and.
So the most, so you're saying, let's take that 40% and let the COG decide how that's allocated,
Yes.
rather than the county council just dumping it into county
That,
budget.
that's what I would suggest be done, and you decided that. I merely suggested that that might be a way to handle it.
That was diplomatic.
That was barely suggested by Ed Hughes.
No,
That's fine.
Hey, listen,
That's
I
good.
think the county council recognizes that transportation is a major problem. And to the extent we can reduce our use of those funds as fast as we can, we will be trying to kick them. And I think they should go to COG and let you prioritize them.
Well, we have a mechanism to do that. Which
Right.
it makes it great.
A
Mayor
different
Jacobson?
voice might help.
Yeah, Jeff, help me understand the math. We have a pot of money, we're gonna take 60% or more to put it in A. And we're gonna take 40% or more to put it in B. If we put more than 60% into
Well-
A, doesn't that mean we can't put 40% or
Well,
more in B?
So what it's saying is, and yeah, it's a good point, I should clarify. I mean, the county puts other funds besides those sales tax funds. And all I'm saying is there, with this requirement, they'd have to say at least 60% of that sales tax. But if you're putting more in, which they are, I mean, I don't know what the sheriff's budget is. Does that make sense? From a compliance demonstrator point of view, that's all they're gonna care about is you're putting 60%.
Larry,
Yeah.
about 49% of the, county budget of some 60 million is in public safety.
Okay,
So
so
you
it's
can put
not,
more of your own funds in both those uses.
it's not
you can't put less.
60% of the second quarter revenue.
Correct.
It's 60% of the total budget.
Towards those activities.
Some other pot, not the second
But
quarter.
it's 40% of that of the second quarter sales tax. It has to equal to or greater than. That has to go into
If
transportation.
the county wants to put more money in those are fine, but of the sales tax. They've gotta justify at
I
least
guess
60% of the revenue expenses that are in.
Let's continue on.
That's it. If there's any other questions, I'd be happy to answer, but that's it.
I hope that gives you a little bit of an idea of what we're looking at and how we're moving forward.
So
I appreciate, George, your comments and your recommendation on which we just did. We'll see how it goes.
is there, for this presentation, you're saying the fifth quarter is there. Are you recommending that we ask the council, Cache County Council to implement the fifth quarter? Or are you just bringing it up that?
I'm pointing out the options that are remaining. And I would suggest perhaps we start having those conversations and when.
Well, let's not wait like we did before and have it taken out from underneath us, so. We need a recommendation, what you recommend us to do, clearly stated.
Well,
Well, that's
I'm
a
easy to
million-
recommend. I'm the
That's $1 million
transportation guy.
compared
I
to
want,
Yeah,
I want funds to transportation, so that's a recommendation.
Since it's similar to.
That's above my pay grade.
I was looking at it, but I didn't know the distribution amongst county and different groups, but basically, if we have all of that second quarter, all of it. The COG did, all of the projects on the list could have been done by 2027. As we wait, as it is now, if you add nothing else to the list that was presented tonight, it'll be 2032.
But we'll come up with more projects, so don't.
Oh, absolutely.
okay, so I think we're set to go with the recommendations to the county council, and we'll do that on November 4th. Any other discussions or motion to adjourn?
I'll move that we adjourn.
I'll second it. I have motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Stand adjourned.